Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I've not made a video in at least 6 months because of the fact that I've just simply not felt the need to make one. But my full-blooded sister went and sent me an email this morning noting that she hasn't seen me make a video in quite a while and wanted to know what was going on. So, for her benefit, as for all your benefits, I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about what's been going on with me recently. Now, before we get started, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, and donate. Um, look for the link down below to go ahead and donate and, all that. Um, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that I received zero donations since I started asking for them. And honestly, it's one of those things where I know that if people can donate, they will. If they don't feel like it, they're not going to. And I know I don't produce any content that is exciting. It's just something that I do just because I do it, So I just want to go ahead and put that out there. Please donate if you can. Every little bit counts. I got like 5 different crypto addresses, which I think are still valid. I'm going to go ahead and check them later. If they're not valid, I'll get new addresses so people can donate cryptocurrency. I got a Vietnamese bank account people can donate to. They can donate to my PayPal if they want. Yeah. Alright, so same format like last time. I'm going to try and go ahead and take about 20 minutes per topic. And I've got about 3 or 4 topics to talk about. So starting from the last video, I think it was like September 30th or something like that last year. So what's happened in that time? Well, let's start with around that time period. So October 30th marked 8 years since I've been in Vietnam. 8 years. And the only time I ever left Vietnam was to go on a trip to Cambodia back in 2018. But I've been here ever since. I still count October 30th as, the day I came to Vietnam. I think it was October 29th. I have to check my passport, but I think it was October 29th when I touched down. But October 30th is still, yeah. So, it's been 8 years since I've been in Vietnam. And Vietnam has changed me in some ways, but in other ways it reminds me of who I am and where I came from. So, around that time, I was still unemployed and not able to get a job. Now, remember, back in August, I tried getting a job with a double-decker tour company, and it didn't work out. And the reason why it didn't work out is because I wasn't good with sales. And because I'm more of a back-end kind of person, not a front-end kind of person, if you know that terminology. Essentially what it means is that I'm better with non-customer facing roles. So that's one thing. And then my daughter turned 4 in November. And we went and celebrated that by going to the local mall. It's called Latte Mart. It's a South Korean brand. And we had fried chicken and french fries. And my daughter, Denara, she loves fried chicken and french fries. She takes after me in a lot of different ways. And as she gets older, it's becoming apparent that while she shares her mother's looks, she shares my brain, which is both a blessing and concerning. For anyone who knows me personally, they don't know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, not to go into detail, but suffice it to say, my daughter has what's called the wild genes. That's what I call them anyways. Predisposition for things like ADHD, stuff like that. And essentially, I just have to make sure that my daughter grows up in a loving home, which she does, and that she gets all the attention that she needs, that she gets all the support that she needs, so that when she grows up, she won't have as many difficulties as I had growing up. So that's one of the main things. Cheap cigarettes, I gotta make sure the sparks don't fly anywhere they're not supposed to. Um, so there's that. I still remember the day that my daughter was born at the hospital, and as a parent, remembering the day of your kid's birth is one of those things that you're never going to forget no matter how old you get. I'm still pissed at 2U Hospital in former District 1 Saigon Ward now. I'm still pissed at them because they botched the C-section surgery. And, yeah, it's not something I'm going to forgive them for. Because what happened was, during the surgery, it's not proven, but it's just something that I've been thinking about, is the fact that they perforated either my wife's intestines, the small or large intestine, they perforated one of those, which caused bacteria to leak into her abdominal cavity, which made her extremely sick and almost gave her septicemia. And for those of you who don't know what that term means, it's basically like blood poisoning. When you have bacteria from your gut that leaks into your abdominal cavity, it'll give you blood poisoning. And we're lucky she's at the hospital, obviously, because she received prompt treatment. But the nurses left her alone for too long. The nurses didn't watch her long enough. And my wife almost went into septic shock. They pulled her through, obviously, but I'm still pissed about that to this day. And I feel like 2U Hospital should pay some kind of restitution, but of course they're not going to because it's been too long. Now, 2U Hospital, spelled Tudu, but the D is kind of pronounced like a Y. They're extremely famous in Ho Chi Minh City for childbirth. Now, they have different sections. The old hospital is for the very poor, and so that's A wing. B wing is for people who can afford an 8-person room, and then those who can pay extra get the 1-person room. And at first we were in A wing, but then they transferred us to B wing. I guess they didn't want to see a foreigner in the poor people section. So they put us in B wing. And then when we found, because this is during COVID, my daughter was born during the year of the virus in 2021. And what happened was we found out that one of the people in the room had COVID. So we had to get transferred again to a single bed room. Not a bedroom, but a single bed in a room. And it had, TV, bed, another cot for me to lay on, bathroom, and everything else. I can still kind of see it, even after 4 years. I can still see that room in my mind. And when my daughter was born was right at the time that I quit drinking. Because before my daughter was born, I made my wife a promise that I would stop drinking, and I held to it. Now, what made me upset was the fact that I just quit drinking like a week or 2 weeks before my daughter was born, and here they sell beer in the hospital, and I'm thinking to myself, man, that was the worst time to quit drinking. But I thought about it, and I go, I have to set a good example for my daughter, I don't want her to see me pounding beers all the time. And besides, I got fatty liver, so I'm not really supposed to be drinking anyways. Yeah, I know I'm not supposed to be smoking either, but it's one of those things where You gotta pick and choose your battles. That's how I look at it. Now, see, I'm never gonna be 100%, you know, I'm never gonna be 100%, drug free, drink, drink free. Yeah, I'm 100% drink free. But as far as smoking goes, I'm never gonna stop smoking. It's a relaxing activity, if nothing else. Now, I am 100% drug free because I don't do any illegal substances. I don't do narcotics, I don't do any illegal substances, so I'm 100% drug free on that. But I do smoke cigarettes. But these cigarettes aren't regular cigarettes, they're herbals, like I explained in my previous videos. They're herbs that are fermented, and they taste just like a regular cigarette, but there's no nicotine. So I can smoke these all day and I'm fine. Normally I only smoke about 3, maybe 4 cigarettes a day, and that's it. That's all I want. That's the beautiful thing with these kinds of cigarettes, that you can choose. You don't have to be like, man, I have a cigarette. It's one of those, do I have time? Yeah, why not? Let's have a cigarette. So, well, so getting back to what I was saying earlier, my daughter was born in the year of the virus at 2U Hospital, and my daughter weighed 2 kilos at birth, 4.4 pounds, tiny. And I changed her first diaper. I gave her her first bottle of milk, and I held her a lot, and put her in the little cradle thing to sleep. My wife was hopped up on the good shit because she had the C-section. She had the good medicine, like the good drugs. After we got home from the hospital, it was a whirlwind, pretty much. Well, fast forward to today, my daughter is more than 4 years old. She speaks English and Vietnamese, more Vietnamese than English, but if I tell her to do something, she knows what I'm talking about and she'll do it. She's also starting to pick up some Chinese because her mother, my wife, is learning Chinese, and my daughter's starting to pick up a little bit of that. Speaking about my wife, fast forward a little bit, the 18th of November, we went and celebrated. Actually, no, it was 7 years I've been in Vietnam because 8 years is coming up. We celebrated over 7 years of marriage on November 18th. And I can tell you, being married for that long, it's not for the faint of heart, especially when you have financial difficulties and setbacks as I have. I'll tell you more here in a minute. See, one of the things about Vietnam is that the economy for jobs is heavily centered around bachelor's degrees. If you don't have a bachelor's degree, it is damn near impossible to get a job here. Now, I have college trade certificates, which means I'm certified to do a certain job from Cedar Valley College, which is based out of Lancaster, Texas. I got those college certificates, those college trade certificates, when I was staying at a homeless shelter in Dallas, Texas. I got those college trade certificates there. And one of them is in professional workforce development, which is customer service. The other one is in weatherization with retrofitting. And what weatherization is using different kinds of insulation to make the houses more energy efficient so you don't waste as much on heating and cooling costs. Now, a while back, those were good enough to get me English teaching jobs. But if you've been following my videos long enough, you know that I don't want to teach English anymore. I want a normal job. Something that has nothing to do with teaching English. Something where I can feel happy about going to work, coming home each day. Well, the thing is the fact that one of the other subtopics I wanted to talk about that's related to this is the fact that the Vietnamese government earlier this year actually went ahead and tightened restrictions as to who can teach English. And I'm actually happy about that, but at the same time, in Vietnam, rules are meant to be circumvented. Rules are meant to be broken. They're not really meant to be followed here. So the English centers, they're going to find a workaround. Like one of the rules is the fact that you can't use PDF versions of diplomas anymore. You actually have to have the actual paper copy. You can't use a PDF version anymore. You actually have to have the actual diploma to have that translated, authenticated, certified, all that. Also, some universities have been put on a blacklist because they're just diploma mills. They're not actual, universities that are accredited or recognized by the Vietnamese government. So there's that. Getting back to what I was talking about earlier is the fact that my wife and I have been married over 7 years now, and it's going to be 8 this November. And I can tell you it's not easy being married for that long because of the fact that once you get past the honeymoon phase, that's where the real work begins. The marriage normally levels out at about year 5. And since my wife and I are on year 7, we've gotten past a lot of problems that would have broken most couples. Now, there's a 10-year mark and a 20-year mark and a 30-year mark. So we'll see what happens. My parents were married 34 years until my dad passed away. So I'm hoping that my marriage lasts at least 34 years, if not more. Talking real quick about my wife, I won the lottery, so to speak. Because I met my wife on the last place you would actually expect to meet someone, Craigslist, back in 2018 when they still had the personal section. I remember messaging her, she messaged me, and 9 minutes later I am on a one-way plane ticket to come to Vietnam to marry a woman I never met in person before. And that by itself was a huge risk. But yet I won. My wife, to me, is the perfect package. My wife has everything in all the right places. She has a solid head on her shoulders, even tempered, and it's just one of those things where it's like I'm the luckiest man in the world to actually have found a woman that is willing to spend the rest of her life with me. So, yeah. Because I'm a former incel. If anybody knows what that means, incel is a combination word which means involuntarily celibate. Because in America, no woman would look at me. Women that are like, 250, 300 kilos with 6 kids wouldn't even look at me. And I just felt like a nobody. But here in Vietnam, I'm someone. So, and the thing is though, my wife, she dresses modestly. She doesn't show off anything or anything like that. Doesn't wear any makeup, except for, important business events. And, like I said, a perfect package. My wife doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, and that's by choice. I don't, if she wants to drink, if she wants to smoke, that's on her, but she doesn't, and that's also okay. Just because I used to drink and I still smoke, that doesn't mean she has to. So, we're approaching the 20-minute mark, so I'm going to go ahead and think about what next to talk about. Let's see, next topic, November, December. Not really much to talk about. 3, 2, 1, topic switch. For new topics, there's not really much to talk about. After my 7-year anniversary, there was a period of time where it was from November 18th to 2026 where nothing happened. It's just the same stuff, different day. Where I wake up, take my daughter to school, take my wife to work, come home, go to my daughter's school, pick her up at the end of the day, drop her off, go to my wife's work, pick her up, bring her home, and then I start my evening English classes. Which I still have a couple of private classes in the evening, but those classes, they don't make very much. And that's by choice, because of the fact that, one, it's just a private tutoring thing. I don't issue certificates. I don't, claim to be a certified professional, whatever I am, but I don't teach English professionally anymore in public schools. That's why my fare is so cheap, less than 5 USD an hour, because I charge about 112,000 dong for 1 hour for the children. Now the adults, that's a different price range. The adult classes, I charge what people are willing to pay. And no, the price range is not the same from student to student. It's based on what we agree on. And yeah, I know some of my students know other of my students, and that's fine. But at the same time, if one student agrees to one price, another student agrees to a different price, that's what they pay. The reason why the price is so cheap for the children is because of the fact they're kids. Their parents can't afford to pay very much. And I'm fine with that. Because that income is meant to be just residual income, something just to keep me going until something better comes along. Now, someday, when I go ahead and make enough money, I do plan on giving up my English classes altogether, but for right now, it's not really something that's feasible. So, the twins had a birthday, my sister-in-law had a birthday in December, and then of course there's New Year's, Solar New Year's. Nothing really happened in January. In February is when we had Tet, which is Lunar New Year here in Vietnam. And nothing much happened there either. And now the reason why nothing much happened is because of the fact that, of course we had the traditional, Tet foods. We had people dressed nicely on the first day of the New Year, all that stuff. But other than that, there really wasn't much that went on. Fast forward to March, that's when interesting stuff happened. See, here in Vietnam, foreigners are allowed to get a motorcycle license or a motorbike license. But the difference is the fact that the training and the tests are only in Vietnamese. That's it. They do not provide an English equivalent. So in early March, before my birthday, I went ahead and asked my wife, do you think we have enough money so I can go ahead and take the motorbike course? Because I told her that it's something I really need. I've been here long enough, been driving a motorbike without a license for more than 7 years. I wanted a legitimate motorbike license so I don't have to be afraid of traffic cops anymore. Now, here's the thing. It's not a good idea to drive without a license here in Vietnam, because if you get caught, you get the motorbike confiscated and you get an 8 million dong fine. Now, 8 million dong, shoot. I don't know how much that is in USD, but I imagine it's quite a lot. At least 300-400 USD. Plus you have your motorbike confiscated. Yeah. So went ahead and found this company called DC Motorbikes, and this was back in 2024 when I first found this company. And I talked to a manager, English name of Sophia, and I talked to her, asked her some basic information, and she gave me some information. Now, the first bit of information that she gave me was a price, which I think back then was about $10 million. This time the price is a little bit lower because she had a tech discount, but I had to get it soon before the tech discount expired. She told me that the motorbike license is authentic and that I can check it on the police website after a certain period of time, which she told me like 2 weeks, and I could check it on the police website. Now, here's the thing. See, at first, back in 2024, I didn't know if it was a real company or not, because on Facebook you can only trust half of what you see and none of what you hear when it comes to Facebook. Because on Facebook you can find already made driver's licenses for sale. Unfortunately, they may not be real. And if you get caught using a fake license, it's worse than not having one. You see what I mean? The penalties are much more severe. Because you're essentially using a fake government document. In addition to not having a real government document that proves you can drive, on top of the fact that you're driving a vehicle that you're not certified to drive, so the penalties for that are much worse. So, getting back to that, I didn't know whether or not, DC Motorbikes was real, if they were going to give me a real license, anything like that. And then this last March, I talked to my wife about it, and she agreed, and she fronted the money for me to go ahead and go through this course. Total is about $8,240,000, thereabouts. So yeah, it was quite a bit. Now, my instructor is a younger gentleman who I would say is in his middle 20s and friendly and knowledgeable. Now, see, even though there's, the price issues concerning petrol because of the war in Iran, which that's a whole nother separate topic, I still insist on in-person learning instead of the computer learning or learning by myself, because I feel like I learn better in a classroom setting versus online or, by myself. You see what I mean? So I insisted on the in-person learning, and I was never late to any of the classes, not once. On days when it was like on a weekday, I'd take my daughter to school, take my wife to work, and then go to the training class. Then after the training class was over, I just go straight home, which was like around, 11 o'clock noon. Have an hour to myself, shower, and then go ahead and pick up my daughter from school, pick up my wife from work, come home and do my English classes in the evenings. I tried to figure out several different ways to study for this test, and it didn't work the way I wanted to. So what I did was, and one of the things the instructor taught me to do, was basically look for keywords. Because if you look at the keywords, if you look at the pictures, then you'll remember the right answer. And we went over all 250 questions. I mean, all 250 questions. There's like 125, I think, word questions, and then about 125 picture questions. Some of the picture questions are like questions on road signs. The other picture questions have to deal with road situations. Like, let's say for instance, you see one of the situations is you got 3 roads, alright? Now, you have road 1, road 2, and road 3. Road 2 goes straight ahead. Road 1 turns to the left, road 3 goes to the right. Alright? The road ahead, okay, has a sign that says no motorbikes. Well, it has a, shape of a motorbike with a person on it with a red circle and a slash through it. Now, if a person is on a 50cc motorbike, which road can they take? And the correct answer is all three. Because of the fact that the one that goes straight ahead is meant for motorcycles, like anything above 50cc. So 100, 110, 125, 150, 200cc, them motorbikes aren't allowed on road number 2. But a 50cc is allowed on all three. Alright, so that's just one example. So, for the last 2 weeks, until test day, I studied 5 fucking hours a day. 5. Okay, and how I did that was, they went ahead and gave me a program, a computer program to help me study for the test. And every day, I studied the critical questions. There's 20 critical questions that you must get right or you fail the whole thing. So you can have 24 correct answers on the test, but if you fail one of the critical questions, you don't pass at all. So what happened was, first I studied the 20 critical questions, then I studied the actual test, and 5 hours a day for 2 weeks. So test day comes around. And at first I was told to be there at a certain time. And I was. But the doors weren't open yet because they had a meeting. So my instructor told me, okay, wait until like 10 o'clock and then you can go inside. Then after that we did. Now my wife was there, but my wife had to take the motorbike and go back home. So I was there basically by myself. Now see, I have my sunglasses, which I have a prescription to wear during daylight hours. And the reason why is because bright lights hurt my eyes. Even these lights hurt my eyes. But I wear my regular glasses that you can see my face basically. The pain is manageable. It's just one of those things where my eyes don't like bright lights. And why my eyes don't like bright lights is because of the fact I used to work night jobs. And I also used to live in basement apartments a lot, and that's the reason why my eyes got used to low light levels. And yeah, so on test day, I went ahead and went through the motions of taking the test, and I flipped my shit because of the fact that they wouldn't let me take the test with my sunglasses. It had to be my regular glasses like these. Now, it's not because of AI. It's not AI at all. What it is that on the motorbike itself, because you use a test motorbike to take the test with, because it has like a computer on it, and it looks at your face to make sure you're the actual person that's taking the test and not someone taking the test for somebody else. You see what I mean? So that it's an anti-cheating measure, and I appreciate that, but I still flip my shit. So I flip my shit, and this foreigner looks at me. And I go, what? What are you looking at? And I was like, this doesn't concern you. Look that way. And while I was unhappy and I was yelling at him, I knew that I was in a public place and I shouldn't be using profanity. So I was really lucky I didn't. I feel like if it's none of your business, none of your concern, you shouldn't be trying to butt your nose into things that don't concern you. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted a one-on-one class is because that I don't want to be around other foreigners. If I am around other foreigners, it's because I choose to be. Not because people think that, oh, well, we're foreigners, we all have to be friends with each other. No. So I take the test, and the first part of the test was actually the most difficult, and that was the driving portion, the actual driving portion of the test. Now, on the driving portion of the test, you have to do a figure 8, alright, on the motorbike. Now this figure eight is in a really tight space track. Okay? You have to enter at a certain point, you do the figure eight, then you come around and you do that and then you exit the figure eight. There's literally no margin for error. If you fall over, you're done. If you go over the line, you're done. You see, there's no margin for error. So I did a figure eight, barely, on a 110cc, I think it was. I think it was a 110cc, I don't remember now. But anyways, I did a figure eight, barely, and then I pop out, and then I went ahead, went straight, and then weave, and then went around again, and then went over bumps, turned around again, and then I was done. So, waiting for the results of that, and then I go upstairs to take the actual written portion of the test which is on the computer. This part was the most unnerving because there were actual 2 traffic cops in there. Now, I had nothing to worry about. One of the things that they do when you take the driver's test, the actual written portion, is that they make you take everything out of your pockets, like your cell phone, your smartwatch, anything that can be used to cheat, you have to put that in the locker. No backpacks, no purses, none of that. Alright? So yeah, no backpacks, no purses, no smartwatches, no cell phones, nothing that can be used to cheat. And I showed up, went into the next room after I put my stuff in a little locker. Showed up, put my stuff in the room. I waited like 2 minutes. And then the lady waved me to the front of the line. Probably because I'm a foreigner. I don't know. Because the whole U-shaped line was full of citizens, and I was the only foreigner in that group. So they waved me right on through. And as soon as I pop in the next room, I see 2 traffic cops, and one of them said, go to computer number 3, but in Vietnamese. So I do that. I log in, put in my little number, which I still have my little tag that they gave me. So I put in the number 908 into the computer system, and it popped up with my picture. Now, I didn't realize it until I was just getting ready to log in that a traffic cop, because there's 2 traffic cops, and one of them sat literally right next to me at computer station number 4 and watched me like a hawk the whole time. And I figured, okay, cool, I have an audience. So I went ahead and hit enter, log in, and then I saw the first question. I just hit tap, 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 you know. And then after I got done with the test, I went back through and changed one answer. One answer. And then I checked all my answers again, made sure they were all good, then hit submit, and then boom, results were instant. Pass. Perfect score. 25 questions answered correctly with no incorrect questions, no missed questions, perfect score. So I'm like, fuck yeah. I go up to the traffic cop that's sitting at the desk. I didn't say fuck yeah out loud, you know, I'm not that dumb. Went up to the traffic cop, gave him my paper, and I could see his eyes like, whoa. And I just gave him the thumbs up. And then he told me I could leave, and then that's that. So I met my instructor again. And I apologized to my instructor for my poor attitude that day. It's just that I felt that that foreigner was sticking his nose into things he shouldn't have. And my instructor gave me a small gift, which I found rather meaningful. And that small gift is, see if I can find it. I have my little messy pile right here, which my wife really doesn't like. She wants me to try and clean this up, and I'm okay with it being the way it is. Now this is a foam keychain. Now, if you look on top, now bear in mind this is not real, obviously, because you see this. But it's made to smell real. And you can actually still smell a little bit. It smells like cheesecake, I guess. You got 3 little shrimps on top. You got some kind of glaze right here, and this is like some kind of like crust or something on the end. My daughter tried to take a bite out of it because she thought it was real. So that's the reason why it's missing a corner. Um, but he gave me that as a small token of his appreciation, and I'm just like, it's one of those few times where I don't have anything to say. I'm just touched by the gesture. See, here in Vietnam, there's a little custom where when you meet someone for the first time, you give them a small gift that doesn't have much value. And my small gift to him, and every single day until test day, I gave him handmade coffee. Whether he drank it or not is up to him, you know. But I gave him different flavors with sugar, milk, and then milk with cocoa powder in it, so it was like a chocolate coffee. And it was all vegan because the milk was actually non-dairy creamer powder. It's not really popular here in Vietnam, but yeah, so. But anyways, so what happened was the fact that I got that gift from him. We chatted a little bit, handshake, and then I left. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, I finally got my license. And I was prepared to wait a while because I thought it was going to be, several weeks before I get my license. And because I took the test on the 29th. It was actually issued on March 30th. And I think it was like on the 1st or the 2nd is when I actually received it, like the actual card. And I was actually surprised because I didn't understand why it was so quick. So, I don't know. But the point is that now I actually have a authentic motorbike license, so I don't have to worry about the traffic cops anymore. Now, that does not give me a license to do stupid shit on a motorbike, obviously. The only thing it means is that I don't have to worry about the cops confiscating my bike. That's it. Now, for anyone considering coming to Vietnam, I will say that yes, a motorbike license is required to legally drive on Vietnamese roadways. Do not let anyone else tell you otherwise. And if you are considering going to a school to get your Vietnamese motorbike license, contact DC Motorbikes. You can find them on Facebook, or Instagram, and a few other places. If you're curious and you want to learn more about DC Motorbikes, hit me up in the comments section, and I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit more about them. So it was a little bit after I got my license, like I think it was about a couple weeks later, thereabouts, that my wife and I decided to take our daughter to the zoo. First time I've been to the zoo. Now my wife swears I've been there before, but I don't think so. But anyways, so we go to the Saigon Zoo, and in my opinion, it's about the same size as Sunset Zoo, Manhattan, Kansas. It's about the same size. But the exhibits are completely different. Yeah, they got some tigers, and they got hippos, and they got rhinos, and giraffes, and stuff like that. They got peacocks and other birds, and stuff like that. Well, my daughter really enjoyed herself. She rode the bus for the first time, the electric bus. Got to the zoo for the first time. She had a blast. I mean, she really loved that day. So, something tickled my brain and told me that I should message my old boss. So, the old boss from the double-decker tour company. And I did message him, and the very first message I told him was that I apologized for what happened last time. Because of the fact that I felt like it wasn't 100% him. It was more like 50-50, So I take half responsibility for what happened because of the fact that I felt like I could not do the particular job that he hired me for. and I was well within my time to quit and not receive any penalties, and that's why I quit, because of the fact that it was like a sales position, and I'm not good with sales. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not good with sales. So he went ahead and accepted the apology, and he wanted to try and hire me for a completely different position that I felt like still had something to do with sales, and I didn't want to do sales. So he finally got his legal team involved. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because of the fact that I know labor law, and I know labor law so well, in fact, that I was actually able to argue with his legal team for several days. And I came this close to saying, fuck it, I'm done. And then just, take the job offer and just, But instead, the legal team and I came to an agreement. Now, one of the blessings of not having a bachelor's degree is that it shortens the probation period from 60 days down to 30 days. So instead of having to do a 60-day probation, I only have to do 30 days. Then after that, if I pass, then it switches to an indefinite term contract. See, the only people that need contracts with a work duration limit are those with work permits. And since I'm very happily married and therefore have no need for a work permit, I can just skip straight to the indefinite term contract. Now, what that means, in case I want to quit, with an indefinite term contract versus a fixed term contract between 12 and 36 months, I have to give notice of 45 days of my intent to quit. So, yeah, I have to give 45 days notice. Whether or not the employer accepts it or not is irrelevant. Once you give notice, you give notice. Now, you can rescind that notice within the 45 days with no penalties, and then you continue to work. However, if the employer does not accept that you rescinded it, then you're still stuck on the 45-day notice until the time runs out. For my salary, it's $15 million, which isn't a lot, but it's twice minimum wage. So, like, if you think about it in American dollars, instead of making like $7.85 an hour, I'm making more like about 15, 16. If you think about it like that, so it's okay. It's just not that much. Now, in actual money, $15 million is roughly, let's see. Shoot, I'm not really good at math, but $15 million is like, I'd say, $800 thereabouts. I have to check my math. I think it's around $800, which is okay. Essentially the same pay as a citizen, same benefits as a citizen, and what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be working as a transportation operations manager, which means my sole responsibility has nothing to do with sales. All I do is make sure that my boss's vehicles run. That's it. And one of the responsibilities is fuel consumption. See, with the war in Iran, it's made the price of petrol here in Vietnam shoot up. At one point, the price for regular gasoline, what we call in the United States, was over 30,000 dong a liter. And I'd never seen that, not even during the coronavirus did I ever see it that high. And I remember the other day I went and saw how much it was for diesel number 5, because there's two types. There's diesel number 3 and diesel number 5. Diesel number 5 was over 35,000 dong per liter. And my boss, he has double-decker tour buses and he has 45-seat buses. And both of them use a prodigious amount of diesel. So, one of the areas he wants me to focus on is saving fuel. So I wrote up a list of all the reasons why a vehicle will lose diesel, and one of the primary reasons are the drivers who are idling the buses during their break time and idling the buses with the AC on and stuff like that. Um, the owner of the company, the CEO, has basically given me permission to go ham on the drivers to basically get them to comply with new rules and directives, and if they don't want to comply, then they don't have a job. Now, these drivers have been driving those particular buses for that company for several years. Several years. They're also older than me, with the youngest, I think, being about 45. So, I have to deal with older people. I have to deal with citizens who are older people that don't know any English. And I don't think they're going to accept a foreigner as their manager. Well, I came up with new rules and regulations to help make things better. And the drivers have two options. They can either sign the form and accept the fact that they have different roles and responsibilities, or they don't sign the form and they get put on a list. With this list, they can't get off of the list. Once they're on the list, they're on the list. And what the list is a replacement list. So when we hire new drivers, we train the new drivers. Once the drivers are certified to drive on their own, then any driver that's on the list gets the boot. Now, in order to do things legally without having to pay, we would have to give them a 45-day notice. If we cancel their contract immediately, then we would have to pay out an additional month and a half of salary, because that's what's written in the labor laws. Now, the rules, it's a set of 12 rules that all drivers have to follow. And one of them is, like I said, no idling, because that wastes fuel. Another one, the steering wheel handles. Now, because this is YouTube, I'm not allowed to say the slang term for it, but suffice to say, is a certain kind of handle that is affixed to the steering wheel. If you think about it, a steering wheel like a circle, it's normally placed in a diagonal corner like this, so that they can grip it with one hand and turn the steering wheel left or turn it right. Okay, it's supposed to make it easier. The problem with these kind of handles is the fact that they also destroy power steering. They destroy power steering pump, power steering hoses, power steering seals. They destroy the whole thing. And these drivers don't realize that they're causing damage to the vehicle. So those are not allowed anymore. And I'm of the opinion that if you cannot turn the steering wheel using your own two hands, you shouldn't be driving. Another rule, the bus drivers, double-decker drivers, 45-seater drivers, they must wear shoes. Yeah, a lot of the bus drivers that are citizens do not like wearing shoes while they're driving. Here's the problem with that. It is a safety issue. And the reason why it's a safety issue is because of the fact that, imagine it's hot. Your feet are sweaty. Alright? And you're driving a vehicle that's filled with other people. What happens when you have to stop suddenly and you can't because your foot that doesn't have a shoe on hits the brake pedal and your foot slips? Or what happens if you're supposed to go and your foot slips on the accelerator? You know, your foot slips on the accelerator or the brakes and it causes an accident. Okay? Hold on just a moment. Alright, that looks like it's a little better. It looks like it was a little fuzzy there for a minute. But, so imagine that, alright? I put in the rules that if the drivers are not wearing shoes and they get into an accident, that they will be held 100% at fault because they weren't wearing shoes. Another rule is the fact that they have to be professional. That means they can't flip out, they can't have an attitude. If I tell them to do something, I expect them to do it. If they have a problem with that, they can contact the boss. Because one of the signs of a good leader is that you never, ever ask anyone under your command to do anything that you're not willing to do yourself. And everything I'm asking the drivers to do are things that I am willing to do myself and stuff that I have experience in. See, I drove a taxi for almost 5 years for Yellow Cab out of Springfield, Missouri. Plus an additional 6 months driving a 26,000-pound box truck for Amazon. Subcontracted anyways. And one of the tasks that we had was taking care of the vehicle. Understanding the vehicle. Because driving a taxi, if the wheels are rolling, you're making money. If the wheels aren't rolling, you aren't making money. The more often the vehicle breaks down, the more often you're in for repairs, and that means you're not making any money. So you have to get very intimately familiar with the vehicle and all the various parts and what happens when they break down. So, yeah. So what happened was, essentially the drivers now, another rule is that the drivers now have to do a pre-trip and post-trip inspection on the vehicle. Now I call it a simplified list because compared to what DACO has to look at, which is the bus company, manufacturer and bus company, they're the ones that look after the large buses. Doesn't matter if it's manufactured by somebody else, they'll still look at it. Compared to the list that DACO has to look at, the one that the bus drivers have to deal with is very simple. And again, this is all stuff I'm willing to do myself. Alright? One, they have to check all the lights. And I mean all the lights. Headlights, turn signals, inside cabin lights, upper deck cabin lights, side running lights, if there are any. I think there are, but I'm not sure. And the rear lights, like the brake lights, rear turn signals, all that. They also have to check the tires. They have to check tire pressure, tire tread depth, rim condition. You know, they have to check all these things. And in the back, they have to check the fluids in the engine. See, one of the things that I keep seeing is on the back of the double-decker buses, sometimes you'll see the engine compartment tipped open a little bit. And what that's supposed to do is help reduce the heat in the engine block. But, two issues. One is the fact that that looks unsightly. Two is that if you have to crack the door open, then that means there's not enough coolant in the engine block. It's overheating because there's a leak somewhere. There has to be a leak between the overflow tank and the radiator. There has to be a leak somewhere in the hoses. There has to be a leak in the water pump or something else like that. So there has to be a leak somewhere. And we have to go ahead and fix it. Now, if there is a leak, like if I see that door open, then now that bus is going to get put into a queue to have it looked at by the DACO engineers so they can determine what's wrong with it and why it's leaking. Also, pneumatic suspension and brakes. See, large vehicles like that don't use hydraulics. They use pneumatic air systems. For the suspension, you know, to keep it nice and level like this, they have to use air bellows. And if you don't know what that is, it's like a very thick airbag that sits, it's like a cylinder, okay, but it sits in between 2 points, and it's like an air ride, pretty much. Well, the pneumatic system helps keep it level. If the bus is tilting like this, then that means the pneumatic airbag failed on the right side somewhere. Either the right steer tire or the right dual tire. You know, axle. So you've got two axles there. And this is not a 3-axle vehicle, it's 2 axles. One in the front, one in the back. Well, besides that, also the stuff the drivers have to look at is cleanliness. Because the cleanliness they can only see after they do a tour. Because during a closed loop circuit, which goes every hour. Alright? And then there's another bus that comes in 30 minutes after them, and then they go ahead and do another loop. You know, it's like every 30 minutes, but each bus does on the hour. Well, here's the other thing with the tread depth. On tires of that size, it's 131 psi, 900 kilopascals, or 9.03 bar pressure that has to be maintained in those tires. Also, tires of that size have wear bars, where if you feel the tread and you feel that wear bar, because you're going to find it, and you feel that tread is even with the wear bar, that means the tire needs to be replaced. I remember one time last year during my failed attempt to work for my boss that I found a tire that was almost bald. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the fuck is this still on this bus? Why did somebody not spot this? So I told my boss about it. He had a taco engineer come out and they went and replaced his tire. Well, the other thing that I'm tasked with is driver training. You know, hiring, retention, discipline, and dismissal. So the drivers must listen to me, and if they don't, then they don't have a job anymore. Now, see, I'm not trying to be heavy-handed. Not at all. I just want them to do better. And if I had a Class D license where I could operate a bus, I would rather drive myself. But I don't have a Class D license, and there's no way I'm going to be able to get one. But my experience as a former taxi driver, my experience as a former box truck driver, gives me credit for this role. Now, the end goal is to make not only his fleet here in Ho Chi Minh City better, but to make his fleet across all Vietnam better. Because I'm here to raise the standards, the quality, and to help my boss make more profit. See, my boss told me that essentially I help him make more profit than I get a bonus. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, granted, the way I see it, yeah, this job doesn't pay very much, but at the same time, I've been out of work since, 2024, November 2024, and I need a job, and I needed one badly. And besides, being in diesel maintenance is definitely a good career choice. I have to go ahead and pause right now to go use the toilet. I'll be right back. Alright, and I'm back. Sorry about, mentioning about having to use the toilet, but I'm talking about a lot of different stuff and I had to take a piss. So anyways, let's get back to it. So, about my job, I have several responsibilities. One of which is to stop fuel waste, train new drivers, do preventative maintenance on the vehicles, make sure the vehicles are operating 98% of the time, which is, in my opinion, an unreasonable goal, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it might be doable. Another task is to maintain the electronic systems and also customer feedback. So customer service is something I'm certified to do. So I definitely have no problem with that. It's my hope that if I do this job for a while, that I'll have my own team to work with. Because of the fact that I feel this job can grow into something where I won't be able to do it by myself. I will need help. And if I ever have any crew under my command, I want to know that I can trust each and every one of them to do the job that I give them to do without any issues. See, with this job, it's extremely important because of the fact that it deals with life. How it deals with life is simple. With proper care and maintenance, these diesel vehicles will last a really long time. Also, with proper care and maintenance, the chances for accidents goes down. It's not zero, but it will go down. How it deals with life is the fact that, like I said earlier, with the tires. See, when a tire explodes, especially a tire that's under 131 psi, that causes a lot of problems, and it will cause an accident. It just depends on how bad. If you catch it before it happens, then the tire won't explode. Also, because of double-decker buses, we have to maintain the utmost strict maintenance on the vehicles because a lot of the tourists like to go above, to the second floor and sit there and ride around on the closed loop. And we have to make sure that nothing bad happens. You see what I mean? Now, this tour company has been operating for several years. And what it is, it's like a guided tour, but the Vietnamese attendants aren't tour guides. They're just sales and bus attendants. That's it. That's all they do. The actual tour information comes through the loudspeakers. Well, not loudspeakers, but you actually have to plug in a set of headphones in order to go ahead and listen to it. The recording itself, I think, needs to be updated, but that's just me. I wouldn't mind lending my voice to doing something like that, but I'd have to take up my barbell just to make the information a lot easier. Now, that's another question that people might want to know about is, what about my barbell? Well, here's how I answer that question. See, unless you stare directly at my mouth, you're not really going to see it. Not that much. So, I'm not going to stick my tongue out. I'm not going to, or anything like that during the course of my day. Or do that. At least I'll try not to do that. The thing is the fact that I consider it to be religious jewelry. Because of the fact that, well, for starters, I've had the piercing itself since I was 18 and I'm 40 now. So that's 22 years I've had this piercing. And I did a little research, and one of the cultures, and I'm not claiming to be a part of this culture, not at all. I just incorporated a part of this belief structure into my own religion. That the ancient Mexica people, what used to be known as the Aztecs, they once believed that if you had a tongue piercing, that you gave a sacrifice of blood to the gods, and that you were looked upon more favorably as a result of your sacrifice. So I incorporated that into my religion, noting the blood, the pain, and the sacrifice involved. And that hopefully the gods that I worship would look down upon me more favorably, versus if I hadn't had a tongue piercing. Now, I'm not really going to get into religion right now. I know that a lot of people, including my sister, aren't religious. And there's nothing wrong with that. You do you, as the saying goes. But I'm just telling you that I consider my barbell to be religious jewelry, and that's why I wear it. Well, what about lunchtime? Well, since there's cameras everywhere in the office except for the bathroom, that means when it hits lunchtime, I go upstairs, take my barbell out, come back downstairs, eat, relax. When lunch is over, I go back upstairs, put my barbell back in, and then get back to work. That's it. What happens if I'm on a, work dinner or something like that, or work lunch? How am I going to get my barbell out? Well, same thing. Go, excuse myself, get lunch, or go, excuse myself, go to the bathroom, take it out, come back, and then that's that. Aren't they going to notice the difference in how you talk? Yes, they will notice. They'd be deaf not to notice. But at the same time, it's one of those things where I have to respect other people's choices that maybe they may not like the fact that I have a piercing. You see what I mean? It's not really considered corporate culture to have a half-faced hole in your tongue. But at the same time, Vietnam does have religious freedom to the extent that under the 2016 law on religion and folk belief, Vietnam states that a person can believe or not believe as they choose, so long as their choice of religion or absence thereof does not harm the state or state interests. That's the reason why religions like Falun Gong are still banned, because they're anti-communist. But I'm not going to get into that either. I'm just giving context. My religion does not harm the state or state interests. My religion is my own. I've been a strict adherent for 26 years. So I would say I have deeply held and sincerely held beliefs, and that I will not convert to any other religion. I will not give up my religion. I am who I am. And the beautiful thing about my religion is that it evolves as I do. Yes, there are strict rules, strict guidelines, but at the same time, my religion evolves as I do. And that's the beautiful thing. Now, see, I'm not going to get into too many details about my religion because, again, I don't really want to talk about it that much. But suffice it to say, I took a couple of books I read back when I was about 14, combined that with other books I read, combined that with Asian philosophy, Asian beliefs, and a few other things mixed in there. And my own philosophies and beliefs, and combined it into one force, which is my religion. Now, my religion does have a name, but I don't want to say it. I'm the only person in the world that believes the way I do. And maybe someday, I might start another channel that goes into more detail about my religion and what it's about and anything like that. Now, here's one thing I want to make perfectly clear. My religion, what I believe in, is not better than any other religion. Alright? I do not claim to have all the answers. I do not claim that my religion is the one true religion. Not at all. My religion is my religion. It's what I believe in personally as an individual. My parents raised me to believe that one day I would choose my own religion when I got old enough to understand. And after going through Christianity, ancient Egyptian beliefs, Mormonism, I landed on my current religion. So, yeah. I do feel like I should go ahead and explain my beliefs on a different channel, where I create another channel and just talk about my beliefs, and that's it, because I do feel like it's time for me to start explaining more about what I believe in and stuff like that. Now, see, here's the thing. I believe what I believe, and that's okay. You believe what you believe, and that's okay too. Okay? No religion is superior to any other. No religion is inferior to any other. Whether a person believes or not believe at all is up to them. If a person is indoctrinated or not, again, that's up to them. See, I'm friends with people of different religions because of the fact that I look past their religion and I see who they are as people. And I know that that's not an easy thing to deal with for some people, but for me, it's just one of those things that that's what I do. One of my goals with working is that I can go ahead and get at least a year's worth of work history, so I can go ahead and have another step closer towards getting a permanent resident card. That's one of the things I really want, so that I can go ahead and it'll be one step closer towards gaining dual Vietnamese American citizenship, which hopefully that one bill in America failed, because if it restricts Americans to one citizenship only, then that means I won't be able to apply for dual Vietnamese American citizenship. And what I want why I want dual Vietnamese American citizenship is because of the fact primarily I want to stay in Vietnam. Maybe I might want to come to America to visit for a time or twice, but most of the time I want to stay in Vietnam with my family. I want to start my own business. I want to go ahead and make a small coffee shop, and I don't want to have foreigner investment requirements. Just a small coffee shop, maybe enough seating for 20 people, and that's about it. I already have a farmer in Gia Lai that makes good coffee. I can also sell coconuts and simple foods, stuff like that. Yeah, it may not be easy, but that's what I want. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about is, what was that? I had another topic I wanted to talk about, but I completely forgot about it. So anyways, this job is set to start next week on May 4th. And I only have 30 days to prove myself before the probationary contract expires. And I'm hoping that I can bring about serious change within that time. Now, most of the bus drivers, I think, will be on board with it, but there may be one or two that will not be on board with it. And it's simple. If they don't sign the form that acknowledges new rules, then they'll be a part of the drivers that get replaced. We are not looking to replace all the drivers with all new ones, no. We're only looking to replace the drivers that don't want to do their jobs, that don't want to take care of their vehicles, that feel like it's okay to play with their phone while they're driving, drive with no shoes on, blah, blah, which is another thing that is forbidden, not only by Vietnamese law, but by company policy, that the drivers are not supposed to have their phones out at all. Not while they're driving, not at a stoplight, at all. Now, if they're on their break and they completed their walkthrough, as soon as they pull up to the bus stop, like at the Saigon post office or at the Benton market, as soon as they pull up, they shut the vehicle off. They're supposed to do a walkthrough and check the buses, check the bus out, make sure there's no trash or anything else, sweep it if it needs it, and clean the windows inside and out. That's it. That's all you gotta do, and it takes like less than 5 minutes. Walk through real quick, see garbage, pick it up. If you see like dirt or leaves, sweep it up. Clean the windows. Because when the customers are sitting on the lower level on the inside, they want to look at clean windows. They don't want to look at dirty windows. So if you have like a squeegee and like one with a squeegee with a a squeegee with a sponge on it and then a rubber part on the other side, use a glass cleaner, use a sponge, turn around, wipe it off. Go all around like that. It takes 5 minutes, if that. Pre-trip, post-trip inspection should take no more than 15 minutes. Because all you gotta do is feel the tires, check the tire pressure, go through, check all the lights, and that's basically it. It's super easy. Checking the fluids, yeah, that takes a little bit more time. But at the same time, I feel like it can get done in 15 minutes. Now, if they go over 15 minutes, that's whatever. But I feel like it should be done in 15 minutes or so. Because they only do this while they're on the clock. I would never, ever ask anyone to work off the clock. It's illegal, for starters. And two, it's not good for morale. And that's like I said, the mark of a good leader is that you never ask anyone to do anything that you are not willing to do yourself. So, alright, well, I've already talked over, because it's already about an hour and 20 minutes, so I gotta start wrapping this up. One final topic to talk about here. We just found out today that, actually 2 topics. One is that my dad's first wife found out that she has terminal cancer. Cancer esophagus. the exact same type as my dad got. And, well, essentially, there's not much they can do. You know, they can try some therapy, some kind of, chemo. It can't operate. So, the thing about her is the fact that her and her husband taught me painful lessons I couldn't have learned anywhere else. Because I spent time with them from the time I was 18 up until about 21 or so. And I consider those years hell. But it's one of those things where I ask my gods, I ask them, without my hatred, without my rage, without my sadness, my loneliness, my fear, without all those negative emotions, what am I? And they simply told me that when you learn that lesson, you will become something else. And I messaged my dad's first wife on the Facebook Messenger because somehow she has an account. And I reminded her of everything that she and her husband put me through. Not my dad, but her current husband. What they put me through. And why I consider it hell. And at the end of it, I went and said that I forgive her. And I forgive her husband too. Because of the fact that holding on to that baggage is just that. Baggage. It weighs you down. It's closing a chapter in my life. Because of the fact that I have a bad habit of holding on to unnecessary negative emotions for years and years and years. And it's like an open sore. It just festers. It doesn't heal. So I just went ahead and told her that I forgive her. That I forgive her husband too. And that I'm not a Christian, but I know she is. And I went and told her that I hope that when she goes, that it's quick and painless. And that when she meets her God and her Jesus, that they will forgive her in the same way that I have. And that she gets to have a beautiful afterlife. I honestly mean that. Because of the fact that nobody deserves to go the way she's going. Nobody deserves that, not even her. Now, my half-sister, her daughter that she had with my dad, because they got married, because like I said, the woman that I know is my dad's first wife, not my mom. Well, my oldest half-sister didn't take the news very well, and, yeah. I went ahead and asked my aunt and my cousin to pray for her, for my dad's first wife, because of the fact that I'm not Christian, but they are. And I went ahead and asked my gods about my dad's first wife, and they said there's nothing they can do. That essentially her time has come, and that she should prepare and get her affairs in order. That's it. So after I forgave my dad's first wife and her husband, sincerely, from my heart, my God spoke to me again, and they said, there's hope for you yet. Now, people would think that I'm crazy, saying that my God's actually talked to me. But honestly, I don't think I'm crazy. Not in the classical sense, like the whole insane asylum thing. No. I just consider myself to be religious. Like a lot of other people do in their own religions. I just consider myself to be religious. That's it. I also found out, actually just today, that my mother-in-law's sister is on her deathbed, and my father-in-law and my mother-in-law are going to Hanoi today to spend some time with her before she goes. And, yeah, My mom, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law aren't really in good health, but they have to go. So my wife may have to stay home and do her job from home because there's nobody's going to be here to take my daughter to school and bring her home from school. So my daughter has to go to school. So someone will have to be here, and it's going to have to be my wife because I have to start my job. I can't, put my job off. So I've been talking for about an hour and a half straight. So I'm going to start to wrap this up, maybe about 5 more minutes, and I'll cut the video off. Honestly, I could not predict the fact that I'd be getting a job. Like, if you had told me at this time last year that I'd be getting a job that's actually solid employment, I probably would have laughed at you. I've tried everything. I've tried LinkedIn, I've tried Facebook, I've tried VietnamWorks, I've tried Monster.com, I've tried Indeed, I've tried everything, and nobody will hire me. On LinkedIn, nobody will hire me. Even American companies in America don't want to hire me for 100% remote work because I don't physically live in the United States. Even though I'm an American citizen, they don't want to hire me. Vietnamese companies don't want to hire me because I'm not cute, young, single, female. I don't have a bachelor's degree. So that's why a lot of Vietnamese companies don't want to hire me either. I lucked out with this job though because of the fact that of the previous experience, so I didn't know what to expect. I still had my old boss's phone number, so I was able to message him. But I'd consider that not much happened between my last video and this video, but obviously a lot of stuff did happen. My birthday, not much happened. Just a cake and some food. My wife's birthday, I bought her some flowers, a small cake, and some food. And that was about it. We couldn't afford very much. But at least this year we had cake. Honestly, I can't think of much else to talk about. I thought about trying to reconcile with my mom, but I got to the point where I just gave up because it's clear to me that my mom does not want to reconcile with me. My mom does not want to get to know her blood granddaughter. She doesn't want anything to do with me. And that's because of the fact that I outshone the golden child, which is my brother, my older brother. My older brother is a golden child that can do no wrong, even though he's 45, turning 46 this year, and still lives at home because he lacks the emotional maturity to live on his own. So there's that. Not married, no kids, can't drive. Yeah, so. My mother chose him over me, and that's that. So I pretty much gave up on trying to reconcile with her because there's no point. It's like trying to talk to a brick wall. So that's the reason why I haven't given my mother through my nephew any updates, because there's no point. If people want to know about me, if people want to know about my daughter, if people want to know about my wife, they can ask me directly. Or wait for a video to come out if I ever do make one. So I got 1 minute left before I hit the hour and a half mark. I just want to say, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, donate, donate, donate. I need money. Anything helps, even if it's just like $1. Anything helps. I'm going to put down information again on how to donate. If you want to reach out to me privately, you can. Any bit helps. I'm going to need money because of the fact that from my start date until my first salary day is going to be about a month away, and I'm going to need money for everything. Food, petrol, stuff that I need for work, stuff like that. So if you want to help me out, please do. This is Yunli Han reporting to you live from and Pudong Ward, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, saying have a good day, be safe, and I'll see you then in the next video. Peace.